Welcome back, everyone. I have been requested to do a couple of recipes today. One of my clients, Cindy, shout out to Cindy. I told her I would call her out on this video. She has actually asked me to go ahead and share. She's been waiting for the protein lasagna recipe that I put together. And then she's also been asking about the chicken crust pizza that I do. So I'm going to combine those two together because they use a lot of the same ingredients, and it's kind of just we're going to call it an Italian themed night tonight. So we are going to start by putting together the chicken crust for the pizza, and then we're going to bake that up while we kind of work on the lasagna. So first thing we always need to do is preheat that oven. Today we're going to have that at about 375, just so that things can cook pretty quickly. We pre-cook the chicken crust before we put the toppings on, and then we'll put the lasagna in as well. So go ahead and preheat that oven, get that started, and then we're going to start to grab our ingredients. So the things that we need for our chicken crust, again, I like to keep my food prep always super simple. So I use canned flaked chicken, okay? Never purchased this before in my life until I started doing this recipe, but it works super easy and it's super simple. I'm gonna grab out of the fridge, I'm gonna grab an egg, and I'm gonna grab a little bit of grated Parmesan cheese. So let me get those things. So here's my egg and here's my Parmesan cheese. I'm also going to grab a couple of spices. Okay, we want to kind of spice this up so it has some flavor to it. So I'm going to grab a little bit of garlic powder, a little bit of onion powder, and then I'm going to grab some Italian seasoning and a little bit of extra oregano. Okay, so just going to put those to the side. Going to grab a small bowl to mix those things all together. And this literally is just the super simplest thing ever. So we're going to open the can. There's a little bit of liquid in it. You can go ahead and just drain that off. There's not really very much in there at all. And then we're going to just put that into our bowl. Grab a fork and blend this all together. Okay. So, I mean, honestly, this looks like cat food coming out of the can, but it's going to taste really good. I promise. Not sure that like I said, I've never used this before in my life up until this point, but it works really well in this recipe. Okay, so to that, I'm going to add a whole egg. Okay, this is what kind of is going to bind all of these ingredients together. And make them turn into our crust magically. Okay, so to that, I'm going to add just a little bit, probably about a tablespoon, maybe even just like half a tablespoon, 3/4 of a tablespoon of grated Parmesan cheese. It doesn't have to be fresh. It can be the stuff that comes in the pan off the shelf. That works as well. Just giving it a little bit of flavor and a little bit of binding to it. So I'm not going to measure out these spices. You're welcome to add. The chicken I find is quite salty, so I wouldn't add anything that has a lot of salt. I wouldn't do like a garlic salt, but just add, to your liking, something that will give it a little bit of an Italian flavor. And you don't even have to do this. All the other ingredients that we're going to put on here, it's a pizza, so we're going to be adding things that will add a lot of flavor. This is just to kind of give the crust a little bit of extra. Okay. So, like I said, that's oregano, Italian seasoning, doing a little bit of onion and garlic powders. Okay. So just gonna sprinkle, not even measurable, really just a dash of each of those. Put those back up. Okay, so then we literally are just going to take that fork and we're going to break up that chicken and just blend everything all together with our fork. Kind of like we're making it's similar to working like with canned tuna. It's like tuna salad. We're just kind of mixing it all together, trying to get the chunks of that chicken kind of broken up. I have heard people have used other forms of chicken. I haven't tried them myself, just like shredded chicken breast, or like a rotisserie chicken left over and shredded that all up. you're welcome to try any of those. But again, I just feel like this is just the easiest. I can have the ingredients on hand pretty much anytime and just throw together this pizza that's going to give me lots of protein. Okay. So again, just blends together super easily. You can see it's just kind of wet from that egg, but it's just kind of all broken up and blended together. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a baking sheet and I'm going to line it with some parchment. With this little piece of parchment, I'm actually going to spray the parchment as well. Sometimes I've had problems with this actually sticking. So I like to double be sure. And just going to put a little bit of spray on top of that parchment as well. Okay. Then I'm just going to take this and just flop it all out. Okay, trying to kind of keep it in a mound. Because we're just going to then start to spread it out. And I like to just use the back of the fork. Okay, it doesn't need to be squeezed together. We're just going to try to keep it placed together on our sheet here as we go. And it doesn't have to be in the shape of a pizza, it doesn't have to be round, but again, I want it to look and fool my eye into thinking it's pizza. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this into some shape. Trying to give a little bit of thickness to the edge. I don't want it to get like too thin, but we want kind of an even depth all the way around on this. Okay, so just about the size of just like a personal pizza. Not very good with size here. Just about the span of my hand. I don't know what that is. Okay. There you go. You can see that comes together super quickly and easily. So it's probably about 1/4 of an inch thick. Not like super thin. And this again, just kind of pushing those edges so that the sit is all the way consistent right to the edge. Okay, so there's my pizza dough. And I'm gonna throw that in the oven. You can hear my oven beat. So I'm gonna throw that into the oven. And depending on how hot your oven or how quickly your oven cooks, this can take quite a while. I know if you have like a convection oven, it'll cook quickly. We're looking for it to kind of get golden and to be stuck together. And with my oven, I'm probably going to check that in about, let's set a timer. Let's set a timer for about 12 minutes. And I'll check it then. Often what I would like to do is I actually will get it kind of golden and then I'll flip it on, I'll flip it off of the parchment and bake it kind of on with the other side up. I find that kind of gives it the best consistency and we're looking to get it fully cooked. So if you want it to be crispier, you can cook it longer. We'll keep an eye on the time. Like I said, we put it for about 12 minutes this time. I think it's probably going to need about 20-25 minutes for the whole thing to really cook. But we'll check it at 12 and see if we can flip it over and go from there. So the next thing that I'm going to do while we're waiting for that to cook is I'm going to start working on the sauce for the lasagna. I'm also going to use that sauce for the pizza sauce today, just kind of a tomato-based sauce. And I'm going to beef it up with some veggies. But I'll probably layer those into the lasagna so that I can just kind of add toppings on the pizza as well. So I'm going to try and make it dual purpose here. So I'm going to grab some of those things. I like to work, again, trying to keep things easy. I like to work with a pre-made pasta sauce or spaghetti sauce from the store, just something in a jar that you like. I find that that's quick and simple. But I am aware that there are a lot of hidden sugars in a lot of the sauces that we buy straight off the counter. So I kind of have a way to kind of cut that down a little bit. And I'm going to grab also some stewed tomatoes. So I have some spaghetti sauce left over from another project. I have some diced tomatoes here. I have onion and mushroom, and we'll probably add those in as we layer up the lasagna. So I'm going to grab pots I'm going to start by putting that spaghetti sauce in that jar, put spaghetti sauce into that pot. Okay. there. It's actually one that I had left over from another project and I ended up putting in the freezer. So that's why it's in the little Ziploc bag. Okay, so I'm gonna put that on the stove and I'm gonna heat that up. I am going to open the stewed tomatoes and I'm actually gonna drain a bunch of the liquid off of them. Mine stewed tomatoes have a lot of excess liquid. And if we use all of it in the lasagna, I think the lasagna is gonna get really runny and mushy. So I'm gonna go ahead and drain a bunch of that liquid and just use a little bit more of the tomato, the flesh in this recipe. So I'm just gonna use the lid to kind of strain that out. And this is quite a large can of tomatoes, you can see. So I'm actually just going to use probably about half of it. I'm just gonna eyeball a spoon. You can get the tomatoes that are kind of spiced up already. They have some that have herbs, generally like Italian style herbs in them. I'm just gonna go ahead and add it again. But that's just gonna kind of take, the reason I do this is because it takes the same number of calories from the spaghetti sauce and stretches it. So if I have so many calories in 1 cup of spaghetti sauce, by doing this, I'm now going to have 2 or 3 cups of spaghetti sauce without tripling that calorie count. The stewed tomatoes have a lot less calories. Okay, so that allows me to kind of get the flavor from the spaghetti sauce, add a little bit of flavor of my own, but kind of stretch those calories over the full lasagna. So I'm just going to try and get that to heat a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add some diced onion. Never go wrong with diced onion. Hopefully let that cook down a little bit. We'll add some flavor, and then I'm going to add some spices off my slice. Okay, so it's going to take probably just about 1/4 of this onion here. Doesn't need to be a ton. We'll just start with all that. To keep it tidy as we go, so the kitchen isn't a huge disaster when we're done and come to the end. Everybody wants to deal with that. Okay, so I'm just going to get that peel off of that onion and then give that a quick dice. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just want them to be somewhat uniform in size. They'll just cook down into that sauce. Flavor. Okay. Okay, so to that, I'm going to add some of those same things that I added to that pizza crust. Some oregano, some Italian seasoning. I love garlic, so I'm gonna add a little bit of garlic in there, some onion powder as well. Okay, just some things that'll give it some nice. We can taste that once it starts to cook down. Once those onions start to cook down into that, we can give it a taste. Make sure it's headed in the direction that we want it to head. Garlic powder. Okay. Yeah. Probably gonna throw a lid on this, just gonna simmer quickly. And we'll start working on the ingredients that we're going to use for for both of our things. Okay, so I'm gonna grab some things for the pizza and for the lasagna. So the mushrooms are on the counter there. I'm gonna grab the pizza. I'm gonna try and keep the calories pretty low again. So I'm gonna do some diced red onion on there. I'm gonna do some peppers on there. Also gonna grab some sun-dried tomatoes. I'm gonna do some olives if I can find them. Okay, some olives. I'm also grabbing a little bit of cheese. Gonna go very sparingly on the cheese. We'll start with that. Another thing that I love to add on my pizzas are, I like to add artichoke hearts. Okay, again, they're kind of just a low calorie. They're just kind of yummy on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and prep some of these ingredients so that when the pizza crust is ready, we'll be ready. Oh, I grab the meat. Forgot to grab the meat. So some of the meats that I'm going to add to the pizza, I have some real bacon crumbles. Okay, I can use just like a tablespoon of that. And that's just 25 calories for that. So I can sprinkle that on lots, adds lots of flavor. And then I have some leftover meats from a charcuterie board that I put together this weekend. So I have some like salamis, a little bit of black forest ham, and I actually have some turkey pepperoni as well. So I'm going to start with some peppers. Dice those up. I have orange and yellow on hand. You can add green peppers if you have them, red peppers, whatever you like. Dice. Okay, these can also be thrown into the lasagna, so I'm gonna throw some of these. I'm just gonna layer some of these veggies in that lasagna as we go. We're gonna make a little cheese mixture in a moment here, but we'll layer some of these veggies in there. And we'll save some to sprinkle on top of that pizza that we're doing. So now you can kind of see why I decided to lump those two together because there's just some crossover. Those mushrooms wipe down. Okay, and again, you can use whatever veggies you like, whatever is your favorites. Into whole slices and then chop those down smaller. They can again be layered in that level. Yeah. Okay. That I'm gonna do a little bit of. In fact, you don't really need a ton of toppings for a pizza. It's just a small size pizza. We're not gonna need a ton, but it is nice to kind of load it up a little bit so that it's somewhat filling for us. Okay. Take a little slice of that red onion. Get that off. Just gonna leave most of these things here on the board. And then they can be used as is. The bacon bits are already ready. The artichoke parts are already chopped to where they need to be, and the sun-dried tomatoes. They might get diced down a little bit, but the olives are good. We're gonna set those aside. I'm just gonna grab out. I get these like little turkey pepperoni sticks. They're yummy as snacks, but they're also great to put on this pizza. So I'm just gonna slice those thin. Again, just looking to keep calories relatively low on this protein pizza, but we also want it to be okay. This pepperoni will add some flavor to it. And then, like I said, I have a little bit of salami that I'm also going to give a quick chop too. Just gonna have a look at the sauce. I can see it's kind of bubbling and steaming over here. So turn it down. Stir. Thing it's saucy. Okay, you can hear the timer going for the oven. Let's have a look at that pizza crust and see how it's doing. So as you can see, it's like starting to come together. It's solidified such that I can flop it around, but it's not quite ready to be flipped. I'm gonna give it about 3 or 4 more minutes, and then I'm gonna go ahead and check it again. And see. I'm gonna throw on the board here a little bit of that salami. That'll be a nice flavor to add. Just have like 2 little slices here. Just set that all to the side. That's the way. The dog is desperately waiting for a treat. I'll sneak her one, but don't mind. Okay, so I'm gonna clear some of this off, set some things to the side, and then we are going to start assembling that lasagna. Pizza. Heidi. Okay, so I'm gonna grab another bowl. I'm going to make a cheese mixture for the lasagna, and I'm going to be quite liberal with the, this is going to add a lot of protein, and it has just a ton of flavor. Okay, the cottage cheese, I like the flavor that it adds. It gets all melty and cheesy, and it makes me feel like it's a really decadent meal that I'm making. So I'm going to probably start with about 1.5 cups, or probably half of this container here. Just going to put that into the bowl, and then I'm going to add some things to it. I'm going to grab that grated Parmesan cheese that I used earlier. So I'm going to grab that, and then I'm going to also grab another egg. Egg. Then I'm actually going to grab, what am I looking for? Some chives. And I'm also going to grab some chilies. Where did they go? I'm a little bit mixed up. Okay, so I'm going to add a good tablespoon of that Parmesan cheese. Okay, again, this is just a strong flavor of cheese. That's going to add lots of flavor to the lower calorie, high protein cottage cheese. So that's why I add this, so that it tastes really cheesy, but we're not really bumping up those calories again. Like we want to keep it so that it's relatively healthy for us as well. So I'm going to put an egg in that. That helps to kind of bring these things together in the lasagna. I'm going to add a good shake of some chives. I like the color that they kind of add to that cheesy layer in the lasagna. And I'm also going to add, I like my lasagna to have a little bit of a kick. And so I'm actually going to add the chili flakes to the cheese mixture. Okay. So I'm just going to add like 2 pinches of that. And it's just to your liking, however you like. If you don't like spice, you don't have to add spice to that at all. It is not a requirement. So we are going to mix that all together. Okay. We are going to assemble that lasagna and get it going. Okay, I'm going to bring all of my things over here so that we can layer. This is kind of like any, if you've made a lasagna before, it's kind of like any lasagna out there. The reason I decided to start trying this one is because I actually found those chickpea noodles in the lasagna form. So that was where the inspiration for this all came. I wanted to have lasagna and try them out, and that being really, really yummy. Okay, so I'm gonna grab a couple of dishes. think I'm gonna have enough to do 2 dishes. I would guess these are probably about 4-inch square. Makes about 2 good servings for me. So I'll make some. I'll probably end up freezing one and using the other one. Have to check that pizza crust. The primer just went. Okay, I can see it's kind of getting a little bit golden on the edges. I'm gonna grab a spatula and I'm gonna give that a flip. Then I'm gonna put it back in while we continue. Okay, so just up and over. I don't know if you'll be able to see, but you can see it's kind of a little bit more golden on the side that was touching the pan. So I'm trying to get. I'm gonna set it for another 12 minutes. Just have a look at that. So to start off, we need to make sure that we spray our pans so that everything doesn't stick to our glass dishes here. So I'm just going to give a little cooking spray. Those. This is the easy part, the fun part. So these noodles do not need to be cooked. They don't need to be pre-cooked. They will turn really mushy if you actually pre-cook them. So we're going to start by layering some of our, I'm going to use my proteins scoops that I save for everything. I'm going to use them actually to scoop the pizza sauce. Okay, so I'm going to start with spaghetti sauce, whatever we want to call it. I'm going to start by just doing a nice little layer. I just want to cover the bottom of that dish with the sauce. Okay, so 2 of these. Just spread that out. Okay, in this, it's probably about 1/2 to 3/4 cup of sauce on the bottom there. Okay, and then I'm going to take my noodles and I'm actually just going to break them to fit. Okay, it's going to give them a rough break. Okay, if they break apart, it's okay. Just go ahead and kind of like layer them in. We're just going to try to cover pretty much most of that sauce with a layer of noodles. Okay, so my pan is really only taking 1 noodle per layer. I'll just put that in there. Okay. So then on top of that, I'm going to add a layer of that cheese mixture. Okay. Spread it. Probably going to just do 1 layer of the cheese mixture. So it's going to be just half of basically what we just made. Just make sure that you cover those noodles, kind of go edge to edge, and just like then on top of that, I'm going to do another layer of noodles, and I actually like to crisscross them. I don't know why. I just do. And I'm actually going to add the pans kind of get a little bit wider as they go. So I'm actually going to add 1.5 noodles to this next layer here. And again, I'm just crisscrossing. Okay. This is not an exact science like any other lasagna. If you've ever made lasagna, you know it's not an exact science. It all ends up tasting delicious. You can't really go wrong with noodles and sauce and cheese, but this is just how. Okay, so another layer of the noodles is there, and then I'm just going to go ahead and cover that over with some more recipes. Okay, and just get that a bit spread. Again, we're looking to kind of. Okay, so I'm going to throw in some peppers at this point and also some mushrooms. I know you're probably gonna hate me, but quantities that ended up probably having, I would guess, about 2 cups of sauce, maybe 3 is what we ended up using there. So we're just gonna make sure we cover all those noodles with that liquid. Okay, I'm gonna put some peppers. I'm also gonna throw a couple of mushrooms in here before I end up topping this with our cheese. I mean, if calories weren't really an option for you and you wanted to go crazy, you could add some pepperoni, you could add some sausage in here. You could really go crazy. The noodles are really just a great base in place of just a regular noodle. So I'm just trying to keep it relatively calorie conscious, I guess is what we're going to call it. So I'm trying to keep the additives to a minimum. And I'm going to show you a little trick that I do with the cheese to, again, along those same lines, keep the calories within reason. Okay, so got a couple of mushrooms here. Okay. So let's save the rest of that for our pizza. So what I'm going to do is the dishwasher. So, as real as it gets, having to pull something out of the dishwasher that's still running. I like to use my microplane actually for my cheese. I find that this makes really, really, really finely grated cheese that allows the same amount to kind of be spread a little bit further. We all know that cheese is pretty dense on calories, and so I'm trying to keep it and make it stretch as far as I can. The last time I made these, I actually used one pre-packaged. I buy my cheese in these little pre-portioned pre-packaged because I don't use a lot of cheese, and so when I open it and cut it, I don't want it to start going bad right away. So I'll use these, and I also know exactly how many calories. So this has 80 calories. So I will microplane this and it will top one of these 2-portion lasagnas. And I know that it's only adding 40 calories to each portion. So that's how I keep it in check. So I'm going to end up using this, but I also, again, have a little bit of cheese left over from that charcuterie board that I was telling you about. So I'm going to use some of that, and I'm going to leave it out because I'm going to grate some of that on top of my pizza as well. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and use, again, like I said, that microplane. Just make some really nice fine grated cheese shreds to go. Actually, might not need nearly as much as I thought. A little piece might go. So be careful as you kind of get to the end, but you can usually get it really good. I find the microplane is really nice and sharp, and works really well to kind of grate that cheese, and then we'll just sprinkle that over top. Okay. And this, if you've been trying to eat healthy for a long time, lasagna is probably not something that you've regularly been indulging in. So this is going to feel like a real treat. I know I do a protein pasta, but there's something about having it actually be like a lasagna that feels indulgent, and is really just super yummy. And I love being able to find things like that, things that feel indulgent, but actually end up keeping you on track and being able to be part of your everyday food prep. To me, that is just a win, and that is sustainable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just sprinkle this over top. Okay, and it's not a ton, but we have that thick cheesy cottage cheesy layer in the middle. That's really going to make this into a very cheesy flavored dish. Okay, so let's spread that one out. Just kind of top it off. Sometimes it's also kind of about kind of fooling our senses so that this looks, feels, and tastes like the real thing, so that we don't really feel like we're missing out on anything by eating it in this. Okay, so those are pretty much all ready to go. Now, what I'm going to do, and what I always do with these, is I actually cover them with aluminum foil. So let me grab that. I find that that kind of helps to steam and get everything bubbly and make sure that those noodles get cooked. But I do usually uncover it for the last portion of the cooking. If you leave it cooked the whole time, I find it keeps all the moisture in, and then you'll have a really runny lasagna. So if you take the aluminum foil off for the last portion of cooking, the noodles will be cooked and it will allow some of that moisture to evaporate. Okay. Cover. That pizza crust as well now, which has been in for about another 10 minutes. We're gonna slide these in and have a look at that crust and see if it's ready to go. That pizza crust is looking good to go from my perspective. Like I said, you can cook it a little bit longer if you want it to be crispy. For me, this is just a good consistency here. You can see it's well and cooked. It's solid altogether. So I am going to go ahead and top that. And fill the last of that spaghetti sauce here. Spread that around. This can be also topped with like a pesto sauce. I've done a pesto sauce, a pre-made pesto sauce before, which is super yummy as well. Whatever you like, whatever, get creative. You could do a barbecue sauce and do shredded chicken with like some pineapple and cilantro. That would be a super yummy chicken crust barbecue chicken pizza. But I'm going to top this with my toppings. I have my onions, my peppers, putting my meat down. This is going to be quite quite a full pizza, but it's going to be super yummy. And I'll probably end up having to eat it with a knife and fork because I'm overfilling it here, but it's going to be delicious. Okay. So that filling. Okay. There a couple of those tomatoes on there. Are quite big. Let me grab that cutting board again. A little bit more actual sizes. A couple of olives on there. I'm actually going to leave the artichoke hearts because I feel like I have tons of stuff on this pizza. It's starting to look a little chaotic on here, but it's going to be super yummy. Okay. All right. And again, I'm going to go ahead. Do that same planing of the cheese. Okay. Plane this cheese down and spread that over top. That. There's our cheese covered. So we're gonna put this back in. We want the cheese to get melty and we want those veggies to kind of wilt down a little bit, okay? It's not an exact amount of time, depends on how thin you're able to slice those veggies up. Pepper. But you can have a look, you can see it's all topped. Pizza is ready to go into the oven, so I'm gonna throw that into the oven. How long that ends up being. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean up my workspace here. I'm gonna let that pizza finish cooking, and then I'll pull it out and we'll also have the lasagnas finished cooking as well, and then I'll come right back and show you how it's all turned out. Hey guys, that pizza is all finished up here. It took about another 12 minutes, so I'll let you have a look at that. Okay, the cheese got all melty, everything's nice and cooked. One's ready to slice up and eat. And the lasagnas are actually just finishing as well. So I'm going to bring those out, set them on some hot pads here. They're gonna need to cool completely before you wanna dive in. They're still, they'll still be a little bit runny if you try and do them right now. But as you can see, the noodles have kind of like grown off the side. The cheese is all melty. All of those vegetables are nice and cooked down in there as well. Those are ready to cool up and then just cut into servings. So the ones that I made there, like I said, I will cut them probably into 2 servings, 2 healthy size servings. And this pizza is a full serve all on its own. So I'm going to take some pictures and make sure to post pictures of everything that we've made today, but I hope you guys will give these a try. They're really yummy additions. They're ways for us to be able to feel like we're eating the same things that we would normally enjoy, but they're just kind of a healthier version or a way for us to kind of get a little bit more protein into our diet. So like always, happy eating, guys.